Welcome to the Off Central Podcast. I'm your host, Larry Kirk, and I'm joined today, known as the Brit from Baltimore.
Thank you.
Jonathan Prothero.
Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. And also we have a special guest, and we are doing this special guest shorts, real fast, rapid fire kind of moments with Shane.
Yeah,
right.
We've tried this before, Shane. It's fire, but not so rapid.
It's rapid fire with Shane is like, okay, let him keep talking.
Yeah.
Keep talking, and then it becomes an hour podcast.
Right.
So we're gonna try to keep the topics to 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Try.
Here we go.
Yeah.
20 minutes. So
Here we go.
Okay.
So on that note, we should dive right in. So the question is, Shane, when will the world end? According to the Bible.
According to the Bible.
As Shane would quote it, amateur predictors of doom.
Yeah.
Amateur
Yeah. So
predictors.
let's put some context around why it's important to have this discussion. So, the word "end times," which was a good word in Jesus's day, has gotten hijacked by hermeneutical dipstickery in such a profound way that it's created an entire genre of clickbait where people find it entertaining to, instead of like looking around our world and figuring out a way to fix it, rather to sit back and just kind of secretly celebrate that it's ending. And a lot of times it's just, and I want to have a certain amount of humility with this where, like if you're watching this and you found yourself in that camp and you're like, something doesn't sit right. I don't want this to feel indicting to you. Like,
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
it's,
This is not an attack on someone who, loves.
And so I think the best way to do that, according to Jesus' way of seeing the world, is to see yourself as the plank. And so, in my lifetime, I was told when I was a kid that Jesus was going to rapture us so that he could destroy everybody else. And then all the rules around that were stuff like, well, this is real. My Miss Dodd, my second grade Sunday school teacher, told me I needed to remember to say all my sins to Jesus before I fell asleep, or if he came back, he would take my parents and leave me in the house alone while the world was being destroyed. Like, I'm 7. And
It's
so
terrifying as a 7-year-old.
yeah. And Larry would have heard similar
absolutely.
messagings.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Don't get caught in a movie theater.
Don't
If
get
Jesus
caught
comes
there.
back.
Yeah.
You're going to be jammed up.
Oh, for watching a movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
in a
So
movie theater.
you'll come out the theater and everyone will be gone.
Everybody's gone.
But you were watching the movie,
Right.
so
I was watching the movie, so
you're going to
yeah.
be part of the
Yeah.
destruction.
And I think there's a couple things that I think fall into the category of obvious. Like, I think if you're 35, right, you need to ask this question: is there anything I believe about God that if I wasn't told it at 6, I wouldn't believe it? Right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anything that you have to be told at 6 in order to believe it probably has some framing issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like I was at a conference recently where this guy was up there giving all these stats about how it was some ridiculous number. Who knows if his number was right? That's not the point. But it was like 94% of everybody that becomes a Christian before the age of 12. And his application point was, since this is true, we should put 5 times as much resources into our children's church, because if you don't get them by 12, right? And I thought that was a dumb application. I think we should put more money into our children's church, but not for that reason. I mean, we need to sit back and ask, how is it that we're framing the gospel in such a way that a grown adult doesn't
Buy it.
like,
Or is interested, or is completely uncompelling.
It's just uncompelling at all. And so that's number one. So if somebody's listening to this, I want you to know there was a time that I thought the end of the world was necessary for Jesus to accomplish his purposes. And but I don't think that anymore. And I don't think the Bible teaches that. Words matter less than how we picture words working. And so let's talk about a few words. End times. So in our world, if I say end times, people automatically picture the end of the world.
Right, Armageddon.
Yes, and so there's this automatic default to that, and unfortunately, there's been people who've greatly profiteered on the apocalyptic images that are outside of people's control. So it is just normal for all of us listening and all of us here to have a certain level of fear about things ending catastrophically in a way we can't control. A meteor coming to Earth, a disease that goes unchecked.
Sure. Sea levels rising or whatever.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then, but what we do is we spend all the time being afraid of things we can't control and almost no time thinking about ways that we can avert apocalypses that are within our control, like consuming less, right? And so things like this. And so you got that, but end times in Jesus's day was just the end of an age. So when Jesus used the word end times, it was a positive thing about the end of one way of doing things and the inauguration of something new. It was actually a way of saying like resurrection. Like when something dies, don't despair. It just triggers
new life.
Correct.
And that's how the whole of creation works.
Yeah.
On some level, that's how every seed is planted, dies, and there's new life. And as that tree dies, it's food for more trees. And so creation works in that pattern.
Correct.
It's a little bit, it's a little bit like what we talked about the other day with regards to Pentecost. It's an end of an age, but Pentecost was the birth of a whole new age, a new way of doing things. So you could say that was an end of times event.
Definitely.
That led, but birthed a new times or a new age. Paul talks about this as well, age upon age, he says.
Yes. Well, scholars almost universally put the Gospel of Mark as an apocalyptic book, because it was describing how things were and then giving this vision for how things will be, right? And to your point, this isn't just true about eschatology. This is true about all of creation. Like, so on your skin right now, every 28 days that skin dies, but I'm not panicking because death triggers new life.
Right.
And so it was the end of the age. And so, like, a great example. So when Jesus said this is a very close quote, but it'll be, this generation will not pass away until the end times are upon them. Are they dead?
Absolutely.
Well, yes. So you don't have to do mental hula hoops. Yeah. I actually had someone that was so committed to the end of the world theory that he was like, well, one of them must still be alive. This happened last year.
Wow.
This is like,
really?
No, this is last year.
And you have to commit to that kind of line of thinking, don't you? If you're going to put your stake in the ground there.
And I said, right. I said, so there's a 2,000-year-old person? He said, well, you calling Jesus a liar? I was like, or maybe there's another way to interpret this. And so the question is, did anything happen in those people's lifetime that ushered the end of one age and the inauguration of another one? Well, there's a few things. Crucifixion, bigger, resurrection, and the destruction of the temple. So if you lived in a world where the only way to experience God was in this building, and then Titus destroys this building, that is quite literally the end times. And so in 70 AD, Titus comes in, destroys the temple. And ironically, historically, the main group of people that survived it were the small group of people who followed Jesus, who saw the warning signs and ran to the hills. And when Jerusalem and the temple got destroyed, they killed, 1.2 million Jews, and then burned them in Gehenna, where their ashes went into the Kedron Brook, which ironically flows into the Dead Sea, which ironically in their culture is called the Lake of Fire. And so you've got all of these images that were happening historically that I think are important, important to consider.
Yeah.
And so end times, number one, was about the end of the age, not the end of the world.
As we know, yeah.
And then, of course, there's passages that are difficult. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth.
Yeah.
For the for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. And so again, people picture the earth dying, right? But in John's world, heaven and earth was a metaphorical way of referring to the temple. And the temple had been destroyed. Like the temple was where heaven and earth came together, right? That's where the divine and the human could collide, was in this temple. And they called that heaven and earth. So I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. Well, the temple was just destroyed. And so this is John giving hope for, just because that is dead, it's only triggering a new way for humanity to relate to the divine. No longer will it be relegated to a geographical location. The temple of God will be in people. But if you read that passage and go, the earth is obviously going to blow up, well, that leads to all kinds of guesswork, and worse, absolving ourselves from the responsibility to participate with God to fix the earth, because what good does that do
if it's all going to hell in a handbasket anyway? Correct. I think that's always that's the underlying issue that I always had as a kid. It's like, well, what's the point to any of this then?
Right.
If it's all headed in the same destructive destination anyway.
Correct.
Life can feel meaningless, and I think a lot of people felt very trapped and fearful in that modality for a long time. I know kids who were walking home from soccer practice just so terrified that their parents wouldn't be home by the time they got home from soccer practice, because they just thought they were going to be, taken up. Like, what is it that kicked this off culturally, do you think? This phenomena of the Left Behind series was obviously a popular. Is that where you were going to go? Is it just that, or is it? I mean, it's
Thief
before
in the
that.
Night is
So all those were symptoms. So historically, it's important to realize that this thing that we're talking about that everybody was scared of, including us, was a new phenomenon. You go read early church Orthodox literature, it's not there.
Right.
It's not in Catholic literature. It's not there. It's not in Anglican literature. It's not. It's in the 1830s. There was a guy named John Nelson Darby, who was the head of the Exclusive Brethren in the UK, and he needed an eschatology to support his exclusivity. So this is where between him and a guy named Schofield, that dispensational theology, that at some point God rescues the people he loves so that he can destroy the people he doesn't without feeling kind of bad about it.
Right. Which is just such a reflection of maybe what we want God to do sometimes.
100%.
Like, if I'm going to live this righteous lifestyle and other people are not going to follow or are going to ignore that way of living, well, I want God to punish them because I've paid a sacrifice to live this kind of way. So there's this whole vitriol that comes with it.
Right.
And there's sort of a psychological buffering of who I am and my identity with God. As long as I can keep them over there, and you'll be punished one day, just you wait and see.
Correct. That's how. And so that took hold, and it was particularly popular amongst oppressed groups of people.
Oh, okay.
Right, because, well, if you have people with infinite power exercising that infinite power in a way that you're hopeless to get out of it, your only hope is God pulls you up and hurts the people in power.
Hurts the people in power. Yeah.
So you could see where it took on. And then, but for something to really take on, it's got to be in songs, and it's got to be in art, and it's got to be in primary imagination. So how do you do that? Artwork and novels. Right?
Yeah,
and so plays, Thief, and you got to capture people's imaginations, not just the concepts. And so that took on, and what it did is it took a life of its own. But it's interesting, like Robin Whitaker, who's the head of divinity at Melbourne Divinity School, she said something that's quite telling. She said, by far, the almost unanimous consent about the book of Revelation, for instance, amongst scholarly circles, is it was a satire, an in-your-face confrontation to the way people were using power in an antichrist way. That is by far the scholarly consensus. But by far the consensus amongst Southern American evangelicals is that it's about the future, which is indicting, because that means the people who give their life studying it have one conclusion, and the people who are like, listen, let me tell you something right now, they have another one.
Sure.
And I think it makes us, it should make us go, well, hang on, how am I thinking about this in an unhealthy way and producing unhealthy things?
Yeah.
Because what that produces is an elitism, an us and them.
Right.
It absolves us from the responsibility to change our world. It puts us in a situation where we're asking all the wrong questions, where as long as we can somehow force ourselves into the label of the in ones, then we can absolve ourselves from the questions that are being asked of the out ones. Right?
Yeah.
Like, are you a sheep or goat? Well, that doesn't matter. I'm saved. Yeah. How about your anger problem? Jesus said anger endangers your life of hell. Yeah, but that doesn't matter because I'm saved. So what it does is once we do that, and here's the bigger question: if the whole world was thinking a certain way, would the world be better? Like, if the whole world thought, what's the point? The world is ending anyway. The world's not better. That's number one. Number two, that theory, for it to be tenable, and this is a real problem, requires the world to be getting worse.
Right. And that's just not what we see.
Yeah.
In any, like, there's only a few things that are worse than 100 years ago. There's a million things that are better. A few things that are worse is pollution. Pollution's worse. Spam. That's worse. Additives in food.
Sure.
But that's just a result of commercial farming that's making more food. So world hunger is less, right?
Right.
Divorce rates are worse, but that's just a result of medical technology. Like, we're living so long. Like, in Jesus' day, they died at 32, so till death do us part was more doable. Now
Right.
you got to live with them to 84.
Yeah.
You know?
And just because divorce rates are worse doesn't mean that marriages are worse. Marriages were pretty horrendous back in the day as well.
Imagine being married in 1880?
Yeah.
Come on.
You stayed because you had to.
Right, and women had no rights. And so,
No chance, yeah.
so the world has to be getting worse, but the problem is that it's getting better in every conceivable way. Like, race relations, better. Women's rights, better. The powerful using some of their power to help the vulnerable, not done, but certainly better.
Yeah.
Like, in Jesus's day, murder was legal, rape was legal, pedophilia was legal, bestiality was legal, strapping people to posts in the middle of town and whipping them to death with whips, that was legal, nailing people to trees and waiting for them to suffocate, that was legal, kidnapping underclass people and forcing them to entertain upper-class people in arenas where they were forced to fight gladiators and wild animals and people like that, things like that, that was legal.
Not legal, but publicly celebrated.
Yes, like, this was entertaining because
right.
they weren't human, they were instruments. And so you go, well, people go, man, you believe how bad this world is these days. The evil in this world's never known evil like this. It's like, if you don't want to read a history book, just go watch Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
Right? And even that wasn't the worst the world had to offer. If they ever made a movie about the Assyrians and their process of scafing people or skinning people, the movie culture couldn't watch it. Imagine somebody being skinned alive.
Yeah.
And that was Friday entertainment. And so you go, well, the world's not. So a couple of problems with it is that if the whole world was sitting around thinking about what's the point the world's going to end, that doesn't make the world better. And if the whole world was absolving themselves from their responsibility, that's not better. And just conceptually trying to convince a 30-year-old that the world is worse than 130 years ago, nobody's buying that. And so it has intellectual problems as well. And so for me, when somebody asks me about it, I'm actually happy. Like, if someone said, I don't care what y'all say, the world's ending and the rapture's happening, and amen. Like, amen. If that thought is producing a kind, compassionate, gracious, generous person, why would I mess with that? I mean, because I do affirm the return of Christ, but not in this, we float off and escape, but in the ones loyal to the King when he returns, rush out to meet him in order to establish something here. I remember we were supposed to keep this under 20 minutes. I'm not sure where we are, but it doesn't matter. I remember one time I was confronted, not like in a confrontational way. I was in seminary, and in seminary was the first time I met a person who'd never heard of the rapture. Like, never heard of it. I didn't know that was
Like a seminary, so somebody devoted Christian,
Yeah.
follower, so much so that he's giving up his not giving up, but he's educating his mind in the direction of theology and Christianity.
Keep
So we're
going.
not talking about somebody who doesn't know the Bible or Christ. We're fully rooted.
He already had a
fundamentally.
PhD. He was a faculty member.
Okay.
Oh,
faculty
member.
member
Yeah.
who hadn't
Okay.
heard of the notion
No,
of
like,
rapture.
what is this you're speaking of?
Teach me about it,
And so,
he says.
and so I said, well, how do you guys read 1 Thessalonians 4? And then he was like, oh, well, the way we read it is Thessalonica had just been visited by Caesar. And that's why Paul doesn't write that to any other. It wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah.
And when Caesar visited your city, the greatest honor you could have is for him to say, I want to come back. And then if that happened, you would employ a government ministry whose whole job was keeping the city like Caesar liked it, so that when he returned, it would look like how he wanted it.
Right.
And then you would employ watchmen to watch for his return. Like, think the Return of the King.
Sure.
And then
That's exactly where my head went. Steward of Gondor. It was right there.
Exactly. and then at the earliest sight of the Return of the King, you'd blow trumpets, and those loyal to the king would rush out to meet him, and then would usher him in to go, look what we did to your good world. We kept it how you wanted it.
We kept it how you wanted it.
He said, so if Jesus is the king, and he left in the air,
who were the stewards?
yeah, you would go meet him in the air to usher him in, hopefully back to a world that looks like how he would want it left, not an apathy that because he's going to destroy it.
Right.
And that's the first time I'd ever heard that concept. I was 20, and I was like, I gotta be honest, that makes just a smidge more sense, you know. And and so, but I think it's also important that the world doesn't ever see us divide relationally, over a disagreement about something like that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
It's like if somebody, like, I preach for people who would be on one side of that, and we're friends, and because what that belief produced is someone who's participating every day with compassion and generosity and bringing justice to God's good world. Amen.
Yeah.
But if I think for a discussion like this, if you heard an end times theory, and let's be clear, that's what it is. Like, it's not like clear in the Bible.
That's right.
If you heard an end times theory, and that end times theory is the obstacle keeping you from following Christ and living like he taught us to live, I would just urge you to remove that obstacle and live like he taught us to live.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. That's good. I think, again, I think those listening, you guys listening out there, we're not trying to bring up a different type of thought for your life. We're just, what we're trying to do is to get you to a place where you're rethinking some of those things. And if, listen, like Pastor Shane said, if you believe this, and if you wholeheartedly believe in this type of thinking or thought when it comes to Scripture, and it's helping you become a better person and making the world a better place, good on you, right? But if it's hanging you up and all you want to do is some type of escapism out of this world, I can't wait till Jesus return, and not do anything about it. Well, that's a bigger problem.
It is a big, and I think it would be irresponsible not to mention this. There have been people who, because of that thought, were so good people that they failed to save for their retirement because they weren't going to need it.
Yeah.
And now they struggle. And so bad end times theory is not a victimless crime, right? In terms of how people are behaving. And I remember I got confronted by the faculty member. Not like he was just wanting to learn. So was I. I was like, wow. So I went and sat down with a rabbi named Warren. And he was a fully devoted follower of Jesus rabbi. And I said, Rabbi Warren, do Jews believe in the rapture? Because that's pretty important considering they wrote the book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he went, Shane, the coming of the Son of Man will be like two men in a field, and one disappears, and one's left standing. And I said, exactly.
Right.
And he went, in Jewish culture, you want to be the one left. Because if the kingdom's coming here, the one who disappears is the one who's not welcome.
Well, that's
it's almost the opposite way to think about
yeah,
rapture, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to be the one left.
You want to be the one left.
Yeah.
And that was one person's perspective.
Yeah.
But it's a great example of how, when he quoted it, I thought he was affirming what I was taught my whole life. For him to only go,
let me turn it on its head.
Man, did
it was
turn
Rabbi
on its head.
Judo, bro.
Yeah.
Rabbi
Rabbi
Judo. He
Judo.
knew what he was doing the whole time as well.
If I'd have woke up with my head on the ground, like
he teed that one up. He said the sentence. He thought he had you, and oh, great!
I was like,
rapture.
right.
Man,
And then he
just
went, bang.
flipped it.
Yeah, and flipped it. And the point I'm making with that is not to solve all the problems around it,
Right.
but to go, if we ever are so closed to anything other than what we were taught, sometimes we can miss things that can profoundly impact the kindness and graciousness and generosity that we can live with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautifully said, man.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for that. Thanks so much for your time today.
Easy.
So appreciate that insight on the word end times. And thanks, Pastor Jay, for bringing that up today, and great conversation around it. And today, after this, we hope that you like and subscribe. If you haven't already, hit that like button and let this get out, let the algorithm get out, and share this with whoever that you would love to give greater insight on end times. So God bless you guys. We love you so much, and we hope that in some way this enriched your life.